You know, we've been talking about the whole Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade and the possibility that individual states are going to start, well, the certainty that individual states are going to start criminalizing abortion and criminalizing women who get them and people who help them and physicians and whatnot. But we haven't really talked much at all on this program or in the media in general, frankly, about American citizens who are actually putting their lives on the line for other American citizens who don't have the luxury of moving to another state or even, you know, hopping on a plane to go to another state to get an abortion if they end up stuck in one of these states that criminalizes abortion. And I think this is a big deal. Allison Gill is on the line with us. Allison is the host of Mueller, She Wrote, up at the podcast, and also the host of the Daily Beans, a woman-owned and operated progressive news podcast. Allison is also a Navy veteran with a PhD in health administration. MuellerSheWrote.com and DailyBeansPod.com are the websites, and Mueller, She Wrote, or Daily Beans Pod are the Twitter handles. Allison, welcome to the program. Tell us about your experience in the military that led you to the conclusion that this is really a big deal and America needs to be discussing it.
Hey, Thom, thank you for having me on. Yeah, when the Alito decision leaked, overturning Roe, I was immediately transported back, and I think many people were in this country to, the time that they needed abortion care, or if they needed it, when they needed it. And for me, it was when I was in the military, when I was in the Navy in 1995. And a little bit of a content warning here for your listeners. I was drugged and I was raped, and that rape resulted in a pregnancy. And fortunately for me at the time, because Roe was in place, I could, in my spare time on the weekend, walk off base to the local Planned Parenthood to seek abortion care and also get a counseling referral. But if Roe is overturned, or even now, right today in Texas, where it's very difficult, if not impossible, to seek reproductive care. If you are on a military base, if you're an active duty service member and you become pregnant, regardless of how it happens, it's not so simple to just walk out the gate and seek that care. You would probably need to travel, but in order to travel, that's not very easy either. You need to have leave approved by 6 different supervisors, all the way up, oftentimes, to the commander of the base. And you need to express why you need that leave. Usually, leave is only granted for things like death in the immediate family. And so you would have to put that all on paper. And in my particular case, when I went to report this rape, and 43%, by the way, of people in the military have reported in 2018 that they had a very difficult time, a negative experience when they reported their rape. So there's really no safe place to report your rape, because it is the chain of command that makes the decision whether or not to prosecute. And they don't want, to acknowledge that they've had sexual assault on their command, on their unit. And so when I went to report, I was, to put it mildly, discouraged. Somebody came in. First, they asked me all the normal questions that people tend to get when they report a rape on a military base, which is whether I was drinking, or if I was flirting with the person, or if I was in a fight with my boyfriend. And then someone else came in and told me that if I filed a false report, I could be court-martialed, lose my school, lose my rate, lose my rank. I could be dishonorably discharged. They threatened to charge me with adultery because my rapist was married.
Whoa.
And so out of complete and total fear, I didn't say a word to anyone. And so without that safe space to report your rape, this could be a situation where the government forces women and people to carry pregnancy to term, and in some cases, their rapist's baby. So it hit me very hard, And I mean, this impacts so many more people, but this small slice, as you said, no one's talking about this.
Yeah. Now, there's kind of two issues here. One is the reporting of rapes and things like that. There was Kirsten Gillibrand has been all over this with the Military Justice Improvement Act, although I understand that a Democratic senator from Rhode Island kind of blew that up. Do I have that right, or was it, did he just move it and the Republicans blew it? What happened? What happened?
You're correct. We had 67 sponsors, 67 senators willing to vote for this bill. When can you ever get 67
enough to break
senators?
a filibuster.
More than enough, right? And they brought it to the floor for unanimous consent, which means you can just pass it without having to do a vote and a roll call. And that unanimous consent was blocked by Jack Reed of Rhode Island, and his reasoning was that he wanted it to go through his committee and be put into the National Defense Authorization Act. There was a lot of pushback from Senators Kirsten Gillibrand, Joni Ernst, and many others, because they were afraid that it would be gutted. It would be, a lot of the provisions of the act would be removed. And that is exactly what happened. And so the Military Justice Improvement Act was baked into the National Defense Authorization Act. And the main part, the whole point of removing the decision to prosecute assault on base, taken out of the chain of command, was left in. And so we still don't have a safe and secure place to report assault and rape and sexual harassment in the military.
That's insane. That's absolutely insane. Now, that issue in and of itself is terrible enough. And I assume that Gillibrand and others are going to try and revisit this?
She has, per her statement on what happened to the Military Justice Improvement Act in the NDAA, she has tried to bring that vote to the floor several times and been blocked each time.
So is there also, which is very unfortunate, is there also any legislation at all that would give service members access to abortion care in the event that they happen to be on base in a state that criminalizes it or doesn't allow it?
Well, no, not that I know of, and that would be unlikely because the Hyde Amendment prevents...
Which is attached to every single military appropriations bill.
Yes, and so what I am calling for from the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, and from President Biden is to approve leave for travel for reproductive health care.
Just that simple. Just make it very, this would routinely be available to women who have been
the leave should
who have an unwanted pregnancy. Let's say this would not be limited to rape, I'm assuming.
I would say no. In fact, it's absolutely inhumane and terrible that people that people in general, but also people in the United States military, would have to find workarounds such as that to have leave approved to travel. They can't pay. The military can't pay for that travel. Again, Hyde Amendment issues, and we can talk about trying to overturn the Hyde Amendment, but we can't get 50 senators to agree on much of anything. So that's, with the filibuster in place. So we're now forcing people to travel to seek that care. Some states are even looking to make it illegal to travel to seek reproductive health care, to seek abortion care. And of course, the federal government, its 12th Amendment supersedes that. But to have to come up with these end runs around this stripping us of our rights is bonkers. But they should be putting these things in place to automatically grant leave for healthcare travel.
We're talking with Allison Gill, the host of Mueller, She Wrote, the Mueller, She Wrote podcast and the Daily Beans podcast, MuellerSheWrote.com, DailyBeansPod.com. And Allison, we just have a minute or so left, but one of the points that you made in your piece in the Washington Post, titled "Overturning Roe would be disastrous for the U.S. military," was that even if women in the military try to get abortifacient drugs through the mail, and now telehealth is expanded and they're broadly available, I didn't realize how tightly the military monitors the mail. I mean, this could be problematic as well.
Yeah, in some commands, and it depends on the command too. Like basic training is extremely strict. They open up your care packages that mom sends to make sure that she didn't send you, cookies with special treats in them or anything. But when I was on Naval Nuclear Power Training Command out of boot camp, they still, would inspect the mail randomly just to make sure contraband wasn't coming in.
Right.
And they know where it's coming from. If it's from a pharmaceutical company, they're going to want to know what's in there.
Yep.
And for reasonable reasons,
No, I get it. I totally get it. So what do you think is the solution to this, Allison?
Again, they need to allow for those drugs to be mailed, for medicine to be mailed into the base, and they need to put in policy. And this is something that doesn't have to go through Congress. This can just be policy in the military that all abortion care related travel is going to need to be approved.
And that, and if you're in a state, say you're in Texas, and say you're at one of the military bases in Texas, and you travel outside the state to get an abortion, and then somebody in Texas learns about it and decides to sue you and everybody involved. I guess they can't sue you, but or the woman who's getting the abortion. What does the military do about that? I mean, shouldn't there be some kind of firewall here, something that protects women?
There should be, and it should be a firewall akin to if you are born on a military base in England, it's United States territory, right? So that's federal territory, so that the policy should be that that doesn't apply. You're not considered a resident of Texas. You're considered an active duty service member, for example, and so that's what the workaround presumably would be for that, or for illegal travel out of a state that has banned it.
Yeah, Supreme Court fixing to create a whole big mess for us all here. Allison Gill, the host of Mueller, She Wrote podcast and the Daily Beans podcast, MuellerSheWrote.com, DailyBeans.com, pod.com. And her piece in the Washington Post, Overturning Roe Would Be Disastrous for the U.S. Military, is over there too. Allison, thank you for dropping by.